Hello, everybody, and welcome to our first webinar of 2021. This is our Zoho One 2021 product overview. My name is Brett Martin. I'm with Zenatta Consulting, and I'm here with Tyler Colt. How you doing, Tyler?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. So we kind of ran through this last year. The first webinar of last year was review, and a lot of things have been changed. Some new products have been added into the product suite, and we kind of want to talk about where they are, where they sit, whether or not we think you should use them or not, what their advantages and disadvantages are. So we're really going to kind of run through the entire product suite here. All right, so this slide actually is from last year. And we couldn't find kind of an updated one this year, but this is how Zoho at that period of time was breaking down their suites into sales and marketing, finance, IT help desk, human resources, custom solutions, office suite, and email collaboration. And what we've basically done is they've made some changes to that. If you go do a search on Zoho One product overview, you'll see how they've broken down the applications. And we're basically going to follow how Zoho is handling them this year. And what new apps, if you notice, there's probably a couple missing apps on here that we're going to talk about this time as we go through it. But let's start with the overall sales group. And the first one in the sales group is Zoho CRM.
And this is kind of one of Zoho's largest applications. It has one of the biggest user sets out of any tool that they have. And, when you look at their product suite, it ends up being kind of home base for a lot of things, right? Most of the other products in their product mix are all going to integrate or touch the CRM in one way or another. And, of course, it kind of serves all of the core CRM functions that you need. So it's a place to capture any of your leads, do your outreach process to them, get them converted and work your deals. One of the coolest things about the CRM and one of the main reasons that we hold it in such high regard is just that it is so customizable and it is so automatable where, you just don't get the level of control in most CRMs that you do with Zoho. It's one of our favorite tools to work with on the platform.
Yeah, and the changes they made this year, one of the complaints that we've had was basically the overall look and feel of the CRM. And it was a little stodgy, still extremely functional, but you really didn't have the ability to kind of move things around. Well, throughout this year, throughout 2020, they really started making some base level changes to it, really cleaned it up, kind of standardized some iconography across the entire site. And then just at the end of last year, right now it's in beta. So I would say this is something we'll see officially roll out this year, is they've got a canvas builder, which allows you to completely reformat any module page that you want to look at. So you can make your contacts page pretty much look any way you want. Your accounts page, your leads page, your deal page, you name it. You can completely customize it. It's a pretty powerful tool, and we'll actually be doing something on that here in a few weeks to kind of take everybody through the power of that. And also we should note that this was our winner of the Zenme Award for Best Sales and Marketing Application for 2020, and well deserved. And like you say, all roads at the end of the day pretty much lead to Zoho CRM. And that brings us to another Zenme winner, Tyler, which was the best new application. So something that didn't exist as part of Zoho One last year is a product called Bigin. And I will tell you, Tyler, I think that this was one of those applications that it took us probably 6 to 8 months to get the vision that Zoho had for this app.
Mm-hmm. And in essence, what Bigin is, it's just a super lightweight and nice to look at CRM that's really optimized for mobile use. So one of the things with Zoho CRM that's always been kind of a weak point when you compare it to softwares like PipeDrive or some of those other tools is just the Kanban pipeline view is just not quite as elegant. And so what they did is basically made a lightweight version of the CRM that you can sync your data to, where they've just, trimmed basically everything except for that core, moving deals from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3. Over time, I think this is likely going to be the primary way to deploy the CRM mobile. We're seeing with iOS 14, the widgets are all coming out for Bigin, not the CRM. But overall, it's a really great application. It started out, basically just that pipeline view, and then they've layered on integrations to campaigns and to finance and to CRM all throughout this year.
Yeah, and you say, well, if I have Zoho One, would I use CRM? Would I use Bigin? The fact of the matter is you can use both. And kind of the use case around there is you actually can do a synchronization of all of your accounts, contacts, and deals to Bigin from CRM. So let's say you had a remote sales force or any sales force, and basically you didn't need them to really see everything that's in the CRM. You wanted to keep it extremely slimmed down, keep it focused. You basically would not really, they would never use the CRM. You would just give them Bigin, and everything that was in the CRM would sync, and basically you would have all that data there. So it's going to really be interesting. They had so much progress on this application this year. I'm really interested to see what they do here in 2021. But right now, it's definitely a winner. And that brings us to SalesInbox. This is kind of an interesting one, Tyler.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential to it, but it really just hasn't gotten an update in a long time. Basically, what SalesInbox is an email inbox that lives inside of Zoho CRM. And if you have your email integrated via an IMAP, if you're on Gmail or Outlook or even Zoho Mail, basically this is just a tool in the CRM that organizes your emails into emails related to deals, emails related to a lead or contact, emails not related to anything in the CRM, and then internal emails. It's a cool thing in concept, but generally we don't find ourselves using it too often, just because it's a little out of the way and you can't really change a lot about it, right? If this format works well for you, then it's great, but we find that there's just a couple usability issues with it that we generally don't end up implementing it.
Yeah, if you're a zero inbox kind of person, this is not for you. But you really can't kind of zero this out. It's very difficult to. And like you say, it has a lot of potential. It's part of CRM. They put it as a standalone app, but it's really not. So you can't go, hey, we're a SalesInbox. It's in CRM and it's a separate tab in CRM and it pulls everything in. But nothing has been done to this for probably 3.5, 4 years. So it's it has potential, like we say. But right now, you're probably going to be better off with just your standard email client. And then that takes us to Zoho Bookings. If you're not familiar, Zoho Bookings is their automated calendaring app. So if you've ever heard of Calendly or Acuity Scheduling, these are applications where a person can go to a web page, they can choose the day they want to meet with you, the time they want to meet with you, and it just completely goes ahead and books the appointment. Zoho Bookings is that. It is not nearly as full featured as the previous applications that I mentioned, and it's kind of lacking a few things. It's made a lot of progress. Right now, you'd really need to assess whether or not you'd want to use this or not. It has sometimes it has trouble with some calendaring issues, and it only really will link if you want to have like set up a Zoom meeting. It doesn't really work. It uses Zapier for Zoom and some other things. It works with Zoho Meeting. It's got a few things that may hold you back, but if you're just looking for some light appointment scheduling, Zoho Bookings is for you. And I have a feeling when we do the 2022 Zoho One review that this application will be just fine.
Yeah, and this is one that they're working on consistently. We see, updates rolling out regularly for it. One of the things in the long term that I'm excited about with bookings is that you can trigger like a deluge function when something is booked. So the ability down the line to automate things happening when bookings are coming in is going to be really, really exciting. But on our end, we're just waiting for a couple of those things, like a real Zoom integration, right? Resolving a couple of the calendar issues, mostly around time zones. Someone books and it shows up on the wrong time zone on there. And we did get a quick question from Keith. Do we recommend going to Calendly from bookings? We use Calendly instead of bookings. As much as we'd love to be all Zoho, we'll be the first to say when something may not be best in class. I think if you're running Zoho meetings, then that solves the Zoom integration problem. But on our end, it's just an issue of those calendar invites going out correctly and showing up on people's calendars where, for the longest time, it would actually send like an ICS file rather than like a structured email where you just click yes and it's on your calendar.
It also lacks some basic functionality that you get in the others. For example, if you wanted to book it, when we do our kickoff meetings, all of our kickoff meetings with our clients, Tyler and I sit on. So when a person's booking that meeting, it needs to check my calendar, Tyler's calendar, and say, yes, we're both available on this day and on this time. Bookings can't do that yet. So again, there are a couple little things that's missing. You need to really take a look at what's not there and what's there and see if it's going to work for you. All right, let's move on to marketing, and we're going to kick it off with Zoho Campaigns.
Yeah, so Zoho Campaigns is, Zoho's equivalent of a Constant Contact or MailChimp, right? Where you're taking your, large lists and either sending out single or, drip email campaigns to those lists. We find ourselves using it a lot because it does integrate with Zoho CRM. So you're able to kind of pull data from CRM into campaigns. There are a couple little challenges or hiccups with those syncs every now and then, and just the way that they're not really a full two-way sync how you'd expect. But nonetheless, it is still a super powerful application and one that we do find ourselves using a lot.
And then the redheaded stepchild, Zoho Marketing Hub. So this is an interesting one, and we honestly don't know where this is going. But when Zoho Campaign started out, you could think of it as just a newsletter. That was it, basically. Single source settings. It had some automations, but they were a little difficult and hard to use. About 2 years ago, Zoho Marketing Hub was officially launched. And if you think of HubSpot, it's basically a very similar thing. It can track web behavior. It's complete lead management. It had full journeys and sequences. It had all of these kind of great things. It was a little buggy upon release, and they started working through those bugs. But then Zoho Campaigns basically subsumed almost all of the features of Marketing Hub. There are only a couple, Tyler, that I think are missing. But the bottom line is we don't know where it's going to go. I think right now, if we had to say, are you going to choose, should I choose Marketing Hub or should I choose Campaigns? From a stability issue, we're kind of going to recommend Campaigns. And my guess is at some point, these products are probably going to merge into one.
Yeah, it's just one of those interesting things where, really the special sauce in Marketing Hub right now, right, given that the workflows are now in both systems, are really like the web, right? Maybe doing goal analytics on the website and some lead conversion. But really, you can also do that with PageSense. You can also do visitor tracking with SalesIQ, right? It seems like it's just in kind of a weird spot where it doesn't have its own identity versus the rest of the Zoho products that kind of do all the things that it does independently.
Zoho Social is Zoho's basically your social media management application. So if you are familiar with applications like Hootsuite, think of Zoho Social. This allows you to go ahead and put your Instagram, your Facebook, your LinkedIn, all of those, everywhere where you would post Twitter, all of your Twitter accounts. You can have multiple different products that you're searching, that you're basically are different, I should say, what do we call those?
Different brands that you're
Thank you.
searching.
You can basically have different brands. So for us, you would have Zenatta as a brand, and then you would have CRM Zen as a brand. And so you can post under each of those brands, go out to the site. You can schedule out your posts. You can collaborate on posts. And it's also then gives you a central dashboard where you can see, hey, what's going on in my social media world? You can respond to people from there. You can see all of your comments, all of your likes. It's a very, very good application, and one we use on a daily basis and highly recommend.
Yeah, kind of a last little note on is it does have some pre-built integrations to the CRM. A big one that we have clients that they love it is the Facebook lead forms can actually just route directly into the CRM through Zoho Social. And they come in tagged with the lead source and some of their referrer information. So it's a good entry point into your CRM as well.
And that brings us to Zoho Survey.
Yes, a survey is exactly as you would expect. It's basically a little tool to build and deliver online surveys. Pretty powerful tool. You can do a bunch of on-page or field logic in it. It's got a lot of integration options where you can actually send this via the CRM and store all of the data in like a related list in your CRM. One of the things we like about it, and we'll mention this a lot, is you can trigger a function when one is submitted, so we can do really any custom action once these surveys start to come back in. So overall, a really nice tool, and one that we do use, especially in conjunction with the CRM for doing any customer engagement.
Yeah, and I think it's probably going to get an update this year. It still is using the old logo. You'll notice on here, Zoho moved to this logo-linism, they call it. And what I find is that seems like when they're doing major updates, sometimes they're just slipstreaming the new logo in, but oftentimes it seems like when they're doing a major update, they're updating that logo. So my guess is we'll see an update to Survey, but it's a great application, and I think pretty much gives everybody what they need if they're really doing surveys. And if you're using Zoho, you have to use it just from a pure integration standpoint. And then kind of its cousin is Zoho Forms. Again, still needing a new logo, Zoho Forms, but this is a form builder. So you can basically build any kind of form you want to collect any kind of data that you would like to collect. You have the ability to branch the form, to make the form dynamic. You can then do a variety of things. You can write this back to the CRM. You can write it to Zoho Desk. You can send emails. It goes on and on and on from an integration standpoint. You can trigger workflows based upon the submission of a form. It's extremely powerful. You can do a lot with them. A lot of people have said, oh, I don't like it because the forms don't look all that great when I go to embed them on the website. But you actually can. The ability to go in and customize your theme and really clean that up. You kind of can do anything you want. You might need a good web guy, but I think you kind of need that no matter what you're using. But if you're using Gravity Forms, you should really give Zoho Forms a good look. They have done so much with it, I think, over the last couple of years that it's a powerful tool.
Yeah, and one final little note that we've been loving about it recently is that they've really expanded its ability to track UTM parameters. So with a couple quick little settings in the form and then a piece of code on your site, it can be grabbing all of your Google campaign IDs and Cliq IDs and just mapping those right in with any submissions. So if you're using it for lead capture, you're really able to gather all of that relevant information that you'd like and translate it wherever you need it.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I think it's really changed our overall marketing approach when we started to roll this out. But if you think about it, a person clicks on a Google ad or you're capturing the UTM information from anywhere, we drop them to this form. They fill out this form. And then when they click submit to book an appointment, we're actually also taking all of that information and we're automatically pre-filling the Calendly invite. And you can do that exactly with Zoho Meeting as well. But there's just so much you can do to kind of make it as easy as possible for your customers to get in touch with you to get the information you want. And at the same time, make sure you're getting everything in CRM and doing all those automations anyway. Zoho Forms, powerful stuff. And that takes us to Zoho Sites.
So Zoho Sites is one that we don't find ourselves using too much. I will say on behalf of our own web developer, he does like its design options a lot. You can make really pretty but relatively simple sites using Zoho Sites. So, if you are, let's say, launching a new product and you just need to spin up a site that's got your banner images, got some info about the product, different sections, you can absolutely do that, but it's not going to be, a full replacement for something like WordPress or Squarespace, right? That are going to have a suite of plugins and applications that you can run within your site. But again, for something simple, it does work quite well. And you do get, I think, 1 or 2 free sites along with the Zoho One subscription.
And that brings us to PageSense. So PageSense will work on any website. It doesn't have to be a Zoho site. And what this does is it's a variety of things. It really tracks the overall efficiency of your site. So by taking a little bit of code and embedding it on your website, it is going to track every click, every form fill, how far people scroll down your page. Anything you will want to track on your site, you pretty much can set up a tracking code for it. So it's really going to show you, are people clicking on my menu items? Are they seeing certain things? How, do they even scroll past the bottom half of my page? What do they see? What do they click? Are they filling out a form and then abandoning it? What fields are they just completely skipping that are maybe not mandatory on a form? And if you look at this, it's kind of like, well, if I've got a bunch of non-mandatory fields in a form on my website for people to fill out, and 95% of the time they don't fill them out, well, you probably should just leave them out. And, you've got, there's a whole bunch you can do here. Do you have a call to action on your site that you think is super compelling and you're expecting people to click on it all day long, but they don't? This is going to tell you that. It's going to break it down by if a person's on their desktop, if they're on a tablet, if they're on mobile, you'll be able to see all of that. Pretty powerful tool.
Yeah, and one last little thing about it is you can actually run A/B tests using PageSense and present different versions of a homepage and see which one converts more, right? Which call to action button or which page design gets the outcome that you want more often.
And then I would say of the king of the web code snippet integration for Zoho is Zoho SalesIQ.
So SalesIQ wears a lot of different hats. I think 2 of the primary things that it's used for is visitor tracking. So just, who's hitting the site, what IP, where are they from, how long are they on each of the different pages, right? And then part 2 is the live chat and, CRM and desk integrations where, if someone actually chats through this form and let's say you're not able to answer it, or even if you do answer it, You can actually write them in automatically as a CRM lead, or create a desk ticket if necessary. So it's basically like a web entry point into CRM or desk or these other applications where people are able to connect with you live.
Yeah, it is a Swiss Army knife. The amount of things it does and what you can do with it, it's super powerful. All the way from every single time a person's visited your site, how long they've spent on your site, the chat integration. Yeah, it goes on and on and on. We've done an entire webinar on it. I would suggest checking it out. A really great product. All right, and that takes us to Backstage. So if you are familiar with any of the other ticketing options that are out there, this is one you should check out. So basically, Zoho Backstage allows you to create an entire event to handle all of the ticketing, the marketing, the micro website for that, the creation of the badges, the collection of the money for the registration for the event. It also handles virtual events as well as physical events. That was a big change they did this year. It used to be strictly just a kind of a physical event, and now it's not. Now it kind of handles all of that. This is an interesting product in that I would say between the start of last year and now, we saw consistent updates throughout the year, and all of them were just really nice. I mean, all the way down from profiles and your ability to kind of limit who can see what, to have back-end vendor portals, all sorts of things. They just had nice changes all year long to this.
And one last little note again, I think I mention it every time we talk about Backstage, but if you are selling tickets, they're not taking a commission. So a big trade-off with something like Eventbrite is, the benefit is, everyone already has Eventbrite installed. But if you do have a captured base who would install this app to get their tickets, you're not going to have to give them a cut of your ticket sales. So for a larger event or one that you're actually selling, can definitely save you some money switching to Backstage.
All right, and that brings us to the support products that are part of Zoho One. And we'll start here with the king of the hill, Zoho Desk.
So Zoho Desk is kind of your home base for all things customer support. So of course it has a full featured ticketing system, right, where you can route incoming emails, incoming phone calls, even incoming texts if you've got the right plugin installed into creating tickets that can be responded to directly by your different agents. There's a whole suite of tools to automate responses, automate escalations, and set up your SLAs. So it is really full featured in terms of your ticket management. Then you're also kind of, other primary use case of this is building out a robust knowledge base on the site. So, you can basically have a section for all these different types of things that you want to provide info on and, post it out publicly on the site. So, as an example, or things like resetting your password or accessing basic features of what you sell. By presenting that online, you do reduce the amount of tickets that are going to come in and support that you actually have to manually provide.
And if you want to know more about Desk, we did a webinar on it a few months ago. It's got 5,400 views. So just go to youtube.com/Zenatta and check it out. Kind of covers everything you'd want to know about Desk. And Tyler and I this month launched a beginner series on Zoho Desk, and those videos have been rolling out as well. So kind of four key things you'd want to do to really get started with Zoho Desk. So you can check those out. Zoho Assist. Love this application. So if you're familiar with any like team viewer, any sort of thing that allows you to go to my PC, any of those kind of things, that's Zoho Assist. It allows for unattended and attended remote access. Basically, you'll put you put a program on the target PC, and you then can log in, look at that PC, and treat it just as if you were there. So it's complete remote support and monitoring. It's nice. It also allows you to do video and chat while you're on it as well. Multiple monitor support. It's a full-featured application that Zoho just drops into Zoho One. It's kind of this bonus application that I'm finding more and more of our clients are actually using.
Yeah, and it's a really solid one. You'll probably find if you ever get on a chat or have a ticket open with Zoho and they ever need to do some live support, you'll always get a link for Zoho Assist.
Yeah, good application. All right, moving on to the communications group, and we're going to kick it off with Zoho Mail.
So Zoho Mail, as you would expect, is their mail platform. This is your Gmail, this is your Outlook, except it's all just hosted right inside of Zoho. So it's a pretty solid application. One of the big things that we like about it is the ability to communicate internally around emails. So you can basically spin up like a chat or a channel about a certain email that you received and basically give visibility to that email to any of the people that you've looped in. So it's a really solid tool. Changing email is always hard. We all have our habits and whatever client we're used to using, but it's definitely worth taking a look at for some of those internal features.
Yeah, and a big change they rolled out this year is that you can try it without going through the pain of switching your MX records and going straight with Zoho. It's now a full-blown IMAP client. So if you want to, you can just open the app, go in and configure it as an IMAP client for whatever email service you're using, whether it's Office 365, Exchange Server, Gmail. Pretty much every server supports IMAP, and you can then go ahead and use it, and you get the full benefit of all of the little plugins and all the widgets that completely integrate across the board. We like it. It's worth checking out. And then that brings us to Zoho Cliq, which also won a Zenme this year as the best collaboration application. And I would say we live in this every day. If you are familiar with Slack, which just sold for, I think, $10 trillion to LinkedIn, or no, I'm sorry, to Salesforce, then I would say you'll love Cliq. It's pretty much Slack. It allows you to have private channels. It allows you to have chats. It does video. It does audio. It does screen sharing. Great integration with most of the Zoho products. You can look at projects, add to projects, work and connect, work and pull in CRM records. It uses slash commands just like you would inside of Slack. It's a powerful, powerful application that just does a lot. And for us, I would say, Tyler, it's kind of our central working spot. It's where we're constantly communicating with each other back and forth throughout the day, sharing links, all of those kind of things. We got our private channels. I mean, I would say it's kind of our main go-to app.
Yeah, I mean, it's got its video call, right? You've got screen sharing, all of these types of things just embedded directly in it. I don't go a day without using it ourselves. And one of the interesting things about it, I think, as time goes on, is they're building out the forms and deluge and the widgets that are going to be inside of Cliq. So I'd expect in 2021 to see a lot of new marketplace applications that take Cliq even further.
Yeah. And if you'll notice, we called this the best collaboration application. And Zoho recently moved it to the communication side, which I think is odd on their website, but we're going to go to talk about the collaboration apps now. I definitely put Cliq in the collaboration side of things, though. And that takes us to Zoho Projects.
Yeah, so this is one that just got a new coat of paint. So they just released Projects 7. I think it was number 7, their new UI. Super, super slick. They've streamlined a lot of it. It's a application that we use internally. We'll say it works within a certain methodology, right? So if you're using kind of cascading or waterfall project management, this is going to be perfect for you. We'll talk about sprints in a little bit if you're looking for a different type of task management or even connect. But for us, we do love this application for kind of being that one place that all tasks live.
Yep. And it's got super nice integration back into the CRM. You can work on tasks in both places, and it's full-featured project management software. But as I always say, project management software is like music. The best one is what you like. So if you're into a full-blown kind of Microsoft projects kind of thing, Zoho Projects is for you. If you're more into agile development, such as Jira, then Zoho Sprints is probably for you. This is basically Scrum-based project management. So this is where you set a goal. It's a specific period of time. Here's what we're going to get done. And you're basically kind of working through each one of those in individual little sprints, as they were. And so it's a really good application for that across the board. And just another way to manage projects. So if you look at Zoho Projects, you don't like it, check out Zoho Sprints. You might find it works for you.
Yeah, one little final note on that is you can actually take a sprint and embed it inside of a project. So you can make a certain milestone in your project, actually format it as a little sprint that you're going to do with a select part of your team.
All right. And then that brings us to Zoho Connect. Believe it or not, another way that you can also manage projects and more.
Yeah, so Connect is it's what they call an intranet for your company. So like an internal board, right? Where you're able to communicate on things, do Q&As, do town halls. You can have whole forums or manuals in here. One of the things that we really like about it is it does have a pretty slick little task management system. So it's nothing quite as built out as Zoho projects, but they just have some really elegant Kanban boards that you can, put in some base automations into to track all of your different tasks. We probably would have stuck with this longer if there were just a couple more kind of management features for it. So there's not a lot of like overarching reporting on the different tasks and things like that in here. But as kind of a quick tool to use for internal communication and things like that, it's a really nice app.
All right, and then that brings us to WorkDrive. So if you're familiar with Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive or any of those, that's what WorkDrive is. Basically a central place to manage all of your files and to share your files. It has gotten so good this year. I mean, there's not a lot you can say about this. I mean, if you're using Dropbox or any of those, you know what this is. The advantage you have is you just get, I think, 2 terabytes with Zoho One, which is just huge.
Mm-hmm.
And you then the ability to manage these files inside of CRM for us to actually do some really, really interesting scripting around these things. But if you're using WorkDrive, it's extremely powerful. And for the longest time, I think last year we really couldn't recommend it, but this year they made so many changes that I would say WorkDrive 2021 is not only ready for prime time, it's pretty much one of the best file management systems you can get.
Yeah, I think especially if you're working within Zoho, right, and you're using a lot of these other apps because it's so elegant the way that you can pass data back and forth. I mean, like a quick example of like why having this along with your other Zoho apps is so slick is, we built something for someone recently where when a certain file is uploaded to an account, it's just automatically organized into a particular WorkDrive folder based on the shipping state of that account. Right. And so Zoho, because your CRM and WorkDrive are in the same place, you know the state. So you just get the script to place that file into the right folder, and you're off to the races. So there's just a lot of network effects with having this kind of plugged into the rest of your applications.
Can't recommend it enough. Love me my WorkDrive. All right, that takes us to Zoho Meeting.
So this one, of course, is going to be, it's your Zoom, right? It's your GoToMeeting. It's that type of tool. All in all, a really nice video conferencing and screen sharing application. There are just a handful of little issues with it that stop us from recommending it. And if you listen to our show, you've definitely heard us talk about it before. It's basically just that the recording engine is not there. You're not getting 1080p or 4K recordings, and there's no waiting room. So if you went to join a Zoho meeting 1 minute too early, it's going to tell you to please refresh in a minute, and hopefully the meeting will be active rather than dropping you into a waiting room, which I think for us is kind of just a no-fly. So it's right there on the cusp of being a great application that we would love to use ourselves. And so I would assume in 2021, hopefully they'll get those final little things worked out for us.
Yes, you'll know when we no longer do Zoom meetings. You'll know
Yeah.
why. It's sad because it is a good application, and this year they made a ton of changes in 2020, and they kept improving things, and they did make some improvements to the recording engine. But they announced, but we really haven't seen it. So unfortunately, that and the waiting room, like you said, Tyler, they're kind of deal killers around Zoho Meeting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then that takes us to ShowTime, which is an amazing application. It's probably our absolute hands down favorite application for doing webinars. It has more features than any webinar software I've ever seen, any training software, but its recording engine again is bad. So we can't recommend it for that. But it is a great application if you don't have to record. But unfortunately, when you're doing trainings, you almost always have to. If you don't have to, we would recommend it. But if you're going to spend the time to do a 1 hour webinar and to really get it out there, you want the recording quality to be super, super great. But you can upload Not only can you upload all your presentations, so you're actually not, having them on your desktop and doing a screen share, they're actually uploaded, but you can also have all sorts of course material that's available for download, uh, much better Q&A management. It's just a great application. Fix the recording engine for us, Soho, and we'll be happy. But, check back. And by the way, when we talk about these things, if you go over to Zenatta.com and you look at our resources library, we're constantly updating this. We've got our yes applications, no problem. Go with those applications. We've got our maybe applications. Most likely, they're going to be perfectly fine for you. There might be one or two things that you might say, hey, you know what, this isn't going to work for me. And then we've got our no's. And we've kind of talked about these, and there's just a few little killers in here that stopped us from being able to recommend them. And sometimes they're so minor, but they're major, right? And
Yep.
that's it. So we don't want to be negative because this is a fantastic app, but probably one fatal flaw that would prevent us from recommending it. All right, and that takes us on to our productivity apps, and let us kick it off with Writer.
Says you would expect by the name, this is the equivalent of a Google Docs, right? A Microsoft Word. Brett and I always go back and forth on this just on a preference thing. He likes the UI of this. I don't love it as much as some of those tools, but it is insanely functional, especially again, kind of thinking back to having this tool as part of your overall suite, right? The ability to just merge a document from the CRM and it just goes out with Writer, right? And the ability to pull in a table from a document. And there's just so much that you can do in congruence with the rest of your system that we find ourselves using this one day in and day out.
Yeah, I love it. I was stoked when it won the Zenme this year. I wasn't expecting it, but I was really happy that it did. And this is an app that kudos to the writers team, man. Those guys cranked this year. Just update after update after update. As a matter of fact, I saw a major update that came out today. So this team works on it. My favorite word processor, hands down, bar none. But again, if you get really stuck using Microsoft Word, maybe it's hard to make the switch. But if you give this a chance, I think you'll really really like it. And then that brings us to the next one, Zoho Sheet. And as you would expect, that is their spreadsheet software. Again, just massive changes this year. They've done some great things. I love what they did with pick list this year. It makes it so much easier than virtually any other spreadsheet software that's out there. But a really, really full functional spreadsheet software. I like it a lot.
Absolutely.
All right. And then Zoho Notebook.
So Zoho Notebook is an interesting one because, on one hand, we've always loved it for the UI and, the kind of one person use of Zoho Notebook. A couple issues it always had was lack of sharing, right? Which they've kind of resolved over the past year for the most part. Soon and nowadays, it's a much more solid application for, note taking and sharing those notes. We're still waiting on a few little integrations, right? Like saving a note related to a CRM record, right? A couple of these little things, but it is kind of some basic note taking and tracking. It's a nice little tool.
Yeah, a good note taker. There's nothing wrong with it. It's got some super nifty integration too, where like if you're in a Zoom meeting or whatever, it just kind of pops up and allows you to instantly take notes. It seems to work with GoToMeeting, Zoom, of course, Zoho meetings, whatever. It's nice. It's got also if you're using Google Chrome, great Chrome extension, basically allows you just immediately access and add notes on anything like that. So pretty powerful note-taking software. So if you're using Evernote, it's worth giving it a look. I think you might like it. And that takes us to Zoho Show, which is their PowerPoint software. And I like it. It's good. It's not PowerPoint, but it's better than Google Slides. I think that's where it fits in the whole grand scheme of things. But it does have some super nice effects, and it does some good stuff. And we pretty much use it all the time. I guess that's all we can say about Zoho Show. Don't confuse it with ShowTime. They're two different applications. All right, Tyler, and that takes us to Zoho Sign.
This is another one that we definitely work with on a daily basis. It's a huge cost saving, right? If you are kind of moving to Zoho One and you're using Adobe Sign or DocuSign, it's just a fantastic cost saving to roll everything into this. And, we love it because you can drive it directly from the CRM, either through kind of the manual process, a few clicks and your sign doc goes out, or more and more nowadays, we're actually just automating it where there's just an action in the CRM that sends a signed document automatically. So a super, super cool application, and one that we've seen more and more people using over time as they're getting more ingrained into Zoho.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of a staple. Again, great integration across the board. If you're in Zoho Writer and you've written a document and you want to send it, right up at the top of Writer, you just click it and send it out through Zoho Sign. It'll put it in Sign and away you go. There's just so much you can do with it. Full featured application, and I think worth taking a look at. And then that takes us to Zoho Vault. This is their password manager, and it is a great password manager. So if you are using LastPass or OnePass, if you've got a Zoho One license, there's just no reason to do that. Just go switch to Zoho Vault. They've made a ton of improvements to this over the last year. The new UI, I think it's been in beta for about 6-8 months, and then last week it kind of officially rolled out. So perfect timing for 2021 here. But password managers are password managers, and this kind of does what all the other top of the line password managers do. So hard to go wrong with Zoho Vault.
Absolutely.
And now we're going to move to the finance suite, and we'll start with, again, the king of the hill, Zoho Books, which also happened to be our ZenMe winner for the best finance application of 2020.
And so Zoho Books is, kind of a parallel to a QuickBooks. There's some differences in how they handle kind of like the sales workflow. But again, it's kind of like your primary home base for your chart of accounts, reconciling all of your invoices and payments, right? Running your purchase orders and bills. Now, some of the cool things about Zoho Books really do pertain to the process that it flows in for sales. Right. So you can actually integrate this into your CRM, and, from a deal, you can send out an estimate to be digitally accepted. Once they accept it, you can either manually or automatically follow up with the invoice for that estimate, right? All tracked from within the CRM and reconciled into books. We're finding more and more that, with QuickBooks, it doesn't have that same kind of flow with the digital acceptance and even now digital signature on some of those documents, which they just did roll out. So it's super, super slick, even just as your kind of sales arm of finance.
Yeah, we run Zenatta on it, and I actually run my personal books on it on my own separate books account, and I love it. I think, if you've been using QuickBooks, sometimes it's hard to get your accountant to make that switch, but in many cases, I think that Zoho Books is well worth taking a look at. And then Zoho Invoice, this is if you're not using Zoho Books. If you use Zoho Books, you get Invoice out of the box and you can do it. But if you just want a standalone invoicing program that will integrate with your CRM and allow you to send invoices and receive payments, but perhaps using another bookkeeping software, you can use Zoho Invoice. And other than that, that's kind of all it is. It just allows you to have the full benefit of sending all your billing, receiving all your payments, and doing all of those things inside of the Zoho ecosystem, but keeping your books on the outside. Which moves us to checkout.
So Zoho Checkout is a super simple one in this suite. It's basically a way to just create a payment checkout page for a particular product. Again, the nice thing is this is really like almost an extension of books where that, payment and invoice just get created automatically once they do run through the checkout. Again, not much else to dive into with this one. It is very simple. It's just that, easily embeddable checkout page for the purchase of a certain product.
Yeah, no shopping cart support. It's just dead simple.
This is like I'm going to, purchase a one-time visit to my house for a service, right? And I'm just going to buy one time, just this one thing, and I can check out online.
And then Zoho Expense, also part of the finance suite. This is if you use Concur to track your expenses or any of the expense tracking software that's out here. This is a great app. It's got a beautiful mobile application. It allows you to snap pictures of your receipts. It can even automatically read those receipts. It, put everything into the proper category, go into Zoho Books. It's all there. So it's a great way to actually manage your overall expenses in your company. And make sure that everything is completely reconciled on the back end. You can use it as a standalone. I highly recommend you use it with Zoho Books, though. It's really
Mhm.
designed to be used with Zoho Books. It's not really designed to be used as a standalone software. But full-featured expense tracking software, they did make some nice updates to it in 2020 that were needed, and I expect they'll be making more in 2021.
Yeah, you got it.
Payroll.
So this is one that we're excited for, but it's just not, I don't know if you could call it complete yet. Basically this is what they're going to be rolling out to link Zoho people to the actual processing of payroll in the finance suite. They currently have it rolled out for California, Texas, India, and is it Washington? I think there's one more.
Washington State, yes.
Washington State. They also rolled it out there. So they're working through it, right? As Zoho does, they're going to build this from the ground up on their own, right? And so it'll slowly be creeping out to these various different states. I think we find California and Texas because that's where a lot of Zoho's employees are, as well as India. So they kind of get it first. We're really excited for this one because it's really, as we've dove more into Zoho people, it's really that last thing that Zoho people doesn't do is just actually run the payroll. So we're thinking, if it can get there where this is like your T sheets, it'd be a pretty excellent thing to add.
Yeah, right now, if you only have W-2 employees and you're in one of those 3 states, go for it, as long as all your employees are in those states. Yeah, it's got a little ways to go, but it's getting there. But there are the advantages of having an ADP or a Paychex where they're handling all your 1099s, they're handling all your W-2s, and they're handling all of your taxes, and they're handling all those things. And Payroll's got a little way to go, but like Tyler said, we're excited. I don't think it's going to be this year, though. I think it's probably going to be next year that we'll roll that out. But if you're in one of those states and you've got some limited, we're taking a look at. And that moves us to operations, which is going to take us to inventory. So Zoho inventory is exactly as you would think it would be. This basically allows you to track all of your inventory. You can do a build of materials. You can have individual finished product goods. You can have multiple warehouses, full integration to the CRM, full integration into Zoho Books, full integration to your order tracking. They did a bunch of improvements this year. A lot of people who are selling through Amazon, Amazon is a warehouse. So you now actually can treat Amazon as a warehouse and all of your inventory at Amazon. There's an integration there that will fully track it. This is a product that has drastically improved over the year. They extended the number of warehouse. I think it might be unlimited now. It used to be 5. I like where they're going with inventory, and they've got some nice integrations that are rolling out, and it seems to be getting better and better. So, this depends. I would say that, full-blown ERP, massive amounts of inventory, big bombs, all that kind of stuff. No, but for most people, I think using Zoho, this does the trick.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the like work in progress tracking and things like that is just not going to do for you. But if you are buying and reselling products and you've got a set of different vendors, or you buy them at prices, and sell them at your MSRPs, it's going to get what you need done. And then it just integrates right into Books, right, to basically create that master financial suite experience for you.
All right. And then Zoho moves subscriptions from the finance suite into the operations suite under their thing here. I know. Yeah. But great application. So Zoho subscriptions, we use it all the time. We've got a lot of clients that use it. If you want to offer a subscription, you can do so with Zoho subscriptions. It allows you to do monthly, quarterly, annual, automatically recurring, end after a certain number of times. So if it's monthly for 9 months, you can do credit cards, you can do offline, you can do online. It creates very nice pages for you, so you can just automatically embed those in your websites, offering monthly and yearly options. You can have all of the different pricing options. You can have coupon codes that expire that are unlimited, that can only be used a certain number of times. It's a full-featured subscription application. And I think we've just got a ton of clients using it. We use it, and it's good. It's really well done.
And again, kind of benefiting from the ability to automate this within the rest of the system, right? Sending custom subscription links based on CRM activities and things like that are all kind of under the hood with Zoho subscriptions.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before, but just to give you an idea, kind of what Tyler's talking about here, we have a a beauty salon, and the beauty salon is actually selling, a subscription. So you can come in and get your teeth whitened once a month, but you get 1 credit a month. So every time that subscription renews, we go into the CRM and we add a credit to that person's account. So they may build up 2, 3 credits, and they can then use those. So it's just one of those things. Then when the teeth whitening is done, it automatically takes away that credit. But they don't have to look and see, because as soon as the subscription's paid, we're just triggering a function that's going ahead and adding that onto that person's account inside of the CRM. A lot of cool things like that you can do. It kind of goes on and on and on. That takes us to HR. And again, we'll start with the big one for HR, which again was our ZenMe winner, and that is Zoho People.
And Zoho People does so many things it's hard to keep track of, but anything from your onboarding, timesheets and attendance, project-based time tracking if you are using Zoho projects. They spent a lot of time over the course of last year building out the like performance tracking and goal setting. They become kind of a leader in that if you kind of compare them to some of the other big platforms. Overall, a super, super strong application. I will say it's a lot to take in at first. When you first open it up, it's, you'll pull up a tab on the left and they'll give you a sub menu. Then you'll click on one of those and there's another sub menu, right? And there's just so many settings that you get into as you get deeper and deeper into Zoho People. But at the end of the day, you're probably going to be able to customize it for what you need because there are just so many options.
Yeah, a lot to take in at first glance, second glance, third glance. You just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper into it. But if you are, want to manage your employees, it's a great way to do it. I will say though, this is, it's a Zoho One product. So if you don't have it standalone, you're just doing it for Zoho One. Everybody in your company has to be on Zoho One. So if you have the $90 a month option where you're ad hoc, great, you can just put those people in. But if you've got one person out there, you're on that ad hoc $90 option, but you've got 10 other employees, you can't really put them in until they're part of the Zoho One license to go ahead and add them in. So you'll either need to go to all employee pricing at $35 a month to add them in or not. But great application, and getting better and better as we go on. And that moves us to Zoho Recruit, and this is their applicant tracking system, and a very good one. It integrates with most of the big job boards out there, and will automatically file all of your applicants and score your applicants and take in their resumes and do an OCR on their resumes. It goes on and on and on and on and on. And, then once they're hired, it automatically converts them and puts them into Zoho People. I guess there's not a lot much more. If you were using an applicant tracking system,
it's basically a CRM, right? It's
yes.
Much like Zoho CRM, except it's just for, your hiring process instead of sales.
It's got some highly customized modules to help you manage that. All right. And then our very, very first business process app is the granddaddy, and that is Zoho Creator. Low code to the 10th degree.
Yeah, so this is really like a full just database application builder. You could do just about anything with it, but you've got to do it all yourself. Our senior consultant, Josh, who works with it, a lot, that's one of the things he'll always say is just that it can do just about anything. It's just that it's not going to come like the CRM does with a lot of pre-baked functionality, right? So we use it a lot to extend the functionality of other applications. Maybe build a custom checkout page, build a custom form, right? And then kind of route it into the rest of Zoho based on some logic that we just code into the application.
All right, and then that brings us to Orchestly. This is a application that was released last year that basically allows you to do full workflows and basically orchestration across multiple apps, multiple departments, and really think of this, I guess, as just one massive blueprint kind of across all of your applications. Have not done a ton with this, Tyler, but it looks like this is the year 2021. I think we might be doing some stuff.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept because you can trigger functions on any of these steps and kind of make things happen throughout the rest of Zoho, but we just haven't really found that compelling killer use case for it quite yet.
Right. It's kind of tying them all together. I think right now we just kind of tie them all together with Deluge and doing other things and doing those kind of functions. But this is one way to do it where you can kind of visually see what you are doing. And that then brings us to Zoho Flow.
The Zoho Flow is really similar to like a Zapier, right? It's an API tool that allows you to code some basic integrations just without really any true coding or scripting needed, right? So you can script inside of here, which is what we do more often than not. But overall, it's a solid application. Every now and then you'll have little reliability issues with it. One of the main ways that we use it now is mostly to catch webhooks. So anyone who's kind of checking this out and thinking about doing some Zoho development, this is one of the easiest ways to make an endpoint that can just be accessed by any type of custom data. So it's really just a behind the scenes tool for us to kind of integrate things and automate some processes. More and more, we're just doing everything with Deluge, but there are a couple key little triggers or actions that just work best in Flow.
Yeah, and I think, the order you should do something if you're looking to see if there's some sort of integration or something along those lines is probably one, look to the marketplace and see if there's an application there that's going to get it done for you, and that's marketplace.zoho.com. If not, you might want to look to Zapier and see if that exists in Zapier, and then maybe look over in Flow. Sometimes, it'll be in one of those two places, and kind of go through that process and just figure out which one's going to be the best for you and which one works best. Oftentimes, it's just kind of a catch-all. We have to kind of choose and see how we're going to get this accomplished. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of ways of accomplishing it. Right now, Flow is still a little young, like you said, Tyler. It does have some issues, but it also has some really nice uses. And that brings us to Zoho Analytics, which is Zoho's BI tool, and an extremely powerful BI tool. I would say we've done more with analytics this year than a lot of the other applications.
It's probably number two now behind CRM. It's so powerful. I mean, I nerd out in this so regularly. A few things that I love about it. I mean, it's got pre-built connectors to all the Zoho apps and to tons of external applications, or even like custom SQL databases. Inside of analytics, one of the big specialties is that you're able to actually do a lot of your data processing in analytics without having to have a server in the middle, right? So if you need to append any, logic-driven formula fields to a table, or if you need to join a couple different tables in SQL, right, to get the structure that you need for your report, you can just do all of that directly inside of analytics. So we found that, oftentimes, or maybe when we first kind of learning all of this, you would build things in CRM to calculate values and store them in records. But really, more and more, we're finding you can just calculate everything in analytics and display it there when you need to see that type of data. So it's super powerful. It's not as beautiful as like a Tableau, right? It's their graphical representations are excellent, but it's just not that level of gorgeous. But it's so functional that it doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I was happy that it won the Zenme this year. I thought for sure Creator was going to win, but it was interesting that the votes came in, and analytics won. I mean, you talk about not only Zoho applications but any application coming in. I'll give you an example of a marketing dashboard where you're pulling everything in from Google, and you're pulling everything in from YouTube, and you're pulling all your ads in, and you're pulling all your clicks in from your website, and you're basically able to get this really unified view of where's your traffic coming from, what's going on, the dollars you're spending. Sure, you can go to the Google Analytics or the Google Ads dashboard and kind of make your way through it to find what you're looking for, or go into analytics, or go into SalesIQ and go into all these things. But like Tyler was saying, the ability to pull all this into one central location and then really just parse it the way you want to see it, super, super powerful tool.
Yeah, it's hard to beat.
Yeah, and now we're going to talk about pricing. And, Zoho has remained true to their word. When this was launched over 3 years ago, they said we're keeping the price, and the price is the price. And so far, the price is the price. I imagine inflation will catch up at one point in time, but there's basically two sets of pricing. If all of your employees are signed up to use Zoho, then you've got the $30 per employee if you pay annually. So it's basically $360 a year if you're paying annually. Or you can go on a monthly basis, and it's $35 per employee per month. You got a couple hundred employees, you only need 15 or 20 of them on the CRM. Well, then you can use the flexible user pricing, which if you pay annually is $75 per user per month. And if you want to pay it monthly, it is $90 per user per month. you can see here that there is a point, a crossover point, somewhere around 40%, where if you've got 40% of your people on the flexible user pricing, well, at that point in time, you might as well just go all employee pricing and pop everyone in, because it's kind of structured that way to get everybody on. And if we go through all of the applications we just went through, at the end of the day, you'll find most organizations will find some value there whatsoever. And that brings us to Q&A. And well, we got one question here on what Zoho solution is the closest competitor to Basecamp? You know, I'll take a
There
swag
isn't
here. No, there's not.
an exact analog to the way Basecamp works.
Basecamp is a rather unique project management tool, period.
Yeah.
Right? And it's designed, it's very much like, there's another one out there, Podio, another extremely unique project management tool, where they basically came at it from kind of a whole different angle, and that's it. Now, Zoho has not made, like you say, they haven't made an analog to that yet.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, in terms of the UI, Connect is going to be close, but Connect is so much more like Trello than it is like Basecamp. Yeah, there isn't really like a direct analog. I mean, I've monkeyed around with Basecamp a bit, and it's really in its own little lane. I mean, some of the hill reporting, like Project Hills, rather than just task lists and things, there really isn't a Zoho app that's going to do exactly that for you.
All right. One more question here. Have you seen an e-commerce company do well with Shopify and Zoho One, specifically using the Finance Suite, inventory, and books? Thoughts, Tyler?
Yeah, so there's actually a pre-built integration for Zoho Inventory. It's very particular though. So you need to create all of your products and SKUs inside of Shopify first, then turn on the integration. So it's a little bit odd, because you would think you want to build them all in inventory and then pull them into Shopify. But the way they've set up the integration is actually the reverse. As long as you can do it in that order of operations, then the integration is super slick. And your Shopify orders basically feed into inventory or books as sales orders, where then you can either automatically mark it as paid and manage your shipping and fulfillment process from there.
All right. And that's going to wrap it up. Before we go, a couple of things. We talked about all these Zoho One products. We do, over on Zenatta.com and our resources library, we are updating this pretty much every week. So if there are changes, these apps will move up and down as new applications come in. And, all of the resources around any particular application are also here. So you can break those down by your articles, guides, videos. Really do take a look over there. I think you'll find that very much worthwhile. And with that, I want to thank you for joining us. If you want to reach us, just go to Zenatta.com or CRMZen.com, fill out the contact us form. We'd be happy to talk to you. Or you can follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and please visit our YouTube channel and mash that subscribe button, because we're doing new stuff every day, and we'd love to keep you informed. And we'd love to have you join our newsletter. Every week we do the CRM Zen Show, if you're not familiar with it, where we cover all the latest Zoho news. And we also then put that in writing. So basically the entire show notes that we do are encapsulated on our weekly newsletter, where we highlight everything that happened in the world of Zoho. Thank you so much for joining, and we will see you next month.